Thank you all very much for joining us at the Business Today Best CEO Awards and the Mind Rush Conference. Mr. Scindia has just literally recovered from COVID. This is the first time since he got well that he's actually left the city. He had us with our hearts in our mouth, wondering whether he'll be fine on time. But here he is. He kept his promise. He'd given a commitment, and we're very thankful. Thank you, Minister. I hope you're fighting fit or on the way there.
When I'm on the munch with you, I have to be fighting fit. I don't
Fighting
have an option.
It's really nice to have you with us, and thank you. We're seeing passenger numbers for the civil aviation sector hitting record numbers. I want you to just use this opportunity to explain to everyone watching at this moment about your vision for the aviation sector in India and how you see us move from where we've reached to about 140 million passengers. Where do you see us go in the next couple of years?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, and it's truly more than a pleasure, it's an honor. And it really is an honor because I think where the country has reached today in terms of our position on the world stage is in as much hugely the contribution of people such as those that we have awarded this evening. I do believe that in life, success is not a derivative of leadership in terms of an individual alone, but it's a team effort. And what we see in this room tonight, and as an extension of this room, across the length and breadth of India, north to south, east to west, is really 1 point, at last count, 38 billion people that represent Team India. And I think it's the coming together of that aspirational desire of the people of India to excel, all of us together. And the team effort in which we are working under the leadership of the Prime Minister today, that you're seeing India hit new success factors across many parameters. So first of all, today my sincere best wishes to all the awardees. You are the reason why India is what it is today. So as an Indian today, I bow in salutation to all of you for creating this environment of new charisma, new dynamism within our country. With regard to the point that you made, I think like multiple sectors in India, civil aviation is seeing new opportunities and new growth. When we talk about infrastructure in India, as Arun Puri just said, it's changing at a massive fast pace that has never been envisioned before. But infrastructure has been the bedrock of India's growth, not today, but over the last 1,000 years. How so? The first armada, if you will, or sea transport system was brought in place by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, almost 500, 600 years ago. On the infrastructure side, you look at the GT road that was built in India. The civil aviation sector, we've got Chandrasekharanji sitting here. Air India is a pioneering airline of the private sector, started its service not post-independence, but pre-independence, where it connected not only the big cities that we talk about. In those days, it used to be Bombay, Delhi, and Kolkata, because Kolkata was the center of trade and commerce, but it also connected cities in the heartland of India, like Indore. It connected Gwalior in those days. I'm talking about 1942. So infrastructure has been the bedrock of India's progress. But in the last 9 years, the tectonic transformation, the tectonic shift that we have seen, 75,000 kilometers of highway in 2013-14, 150,000 kilometers of highway today, doubling that amount in a period of 9 years. If you look at the naval side, in terms of transportation or otherwise in the port sector, and civil aviation as well. We had 74 airports that were built in 2013-14. In 9 years today, we've doubled that number to 148, including heliports and other infrastructure. So if you look at the growth rate of civil aviation or other infrastructure in India, it's been explosive and dynamic. And let me tell you, Rahul, we're not going to stop here. We've built 148 airports, heliports, and waterdromes, 74 in the last 9 years, and we're going to take this number above 200 in the next 4 to 5 years. That's the scorching pace of growth that we're going to look at. On the passenger side, we had 60 million passengers on the domestic side in 2013-14. We have 144 million passengers as on date. If you combine domestic passengers with international passengers, we're looking at a total of 200 million in this country. I'm looking at a forecast of close to about this 200 million number doubling to 400 million in the next 5 years. That's the kind of exposure and the growth that this sector is going to undergo. Another data point for you, the number of people traveling today on by first air condition and second air condition by train, which is our nearest, I don't want to use the word competitor, but our nearest Sehbagi, if I may say that, is close to about 185 million. Civil aviation is at 144 million. But the CAGR of railways is 5.6%. Civil aviation CAGR is 10.3%. And on your show tonight, let me commit that within the next decade, we will be ahead of the railways in terms of transportation for a first AC and second AC comparatively in the area of civil aviation. We've got Chandraji sitting here. Something that we in India could never dream of. The fact that an Indian airline could place an order with Airbus and Boeing, 450 aircraft with Airbus, 420 with Boeing, 250 with Airbus, 220 with Boeing, total 470 aircraft, a $70 billion order, not the highest and largest order from India, but across the world. And that's been made possible today. So civil aviation is a sector which is raring to go. And I see, if you will, using business terminology, penetration rates. 1.38 billion people in our country. 144 million people travel by air. Of those, many are repeat travelers like yourself and I. So actually the penetration in India is hardly 3 to 4%. So sky is the limit, no pun intended. We've got 94% of penetration left to achieve. And so therefore the potential for civil aviation is huge in India.
India is now the third largest market as far as domestic seat demand is concerned, but we're the 18th largest when it comes to international seat demand. How soon do you see that change? A lot of Indians still using routes in the Middle East and elsewhere as they travel abroad. How soon do you see India becoming an international player in the aviation?
So we're the third largest market domestically. We're the seventh largest market internationally at 60 million. You combine the two, domestic and international, we're today the fourth largest market. By next year, we will beat the United Kingdom and become the third largest market across the world. We've already gone ahead of the UK in terms of our economic growth numbers. The fact is that we were the 11th largest economy in 2013-14. We're today the fifth largest economy. We put the UK behind us. Those people that had a dream of ruling our country, today we're ahead of them economically, and we've got a diaspora who's actually today the Prime Minister of the UK. And that talks to our potential in terms of us as a people across the world. We are going to become the third largest economy by 2030, breasting Japan and Germany. And a similar growth rate you're going to see in the area of civil aviation. My dream, Rahul, is to make sure that we create multiple hubs in India. I don't think India as a country has the potential to have a single hub. I think with 1.38 billion people and 17% of the world's population, we have the potential to have multiple hubs in our country. Whether it's South India, whether it's North India, whether it's West India. But we have to make a beginning somewhere. And the fact is that we've been, in many ways, had legacy issues. The very fact that we have given away multiple number of our routings to our neighbors on the east and the west. The tragedy is that our hub has been created not inside India. Our hub has been created on our eastern border. Our hub has been created on our western border. And it's time to regain that hub back for India. So many of the 6 freedom rights that have been given till date. But I think it's important with our carriers like Air India and Indigo today on a fleet expansion, massive fleet expansion program. We've got to be able to offer point-to-point travel to Indians. And I think if we offer point-to-point travels both ways, coming into India and going out of India, I think we as a consumer will prefer that rather than getting rerouted through someone else's hub. And I think that time is now. I'm working currently on the Delhi airport as we speak. I was mentioning to Arun Puriji just now that by the end of this year, we do hope that Delhi will become a passenger throughput terminal of 109 million passengers per year, which means we'll be among the top 3 largest airports in the world. With a 4th runway, with a new terminal. And so what does that call for? That calls for a hub being created within India. And I'm working today with the Delhi airport, with Air India, with Indigo, to see how we can flatten out the volatility curves in terms of landing times, departure times, what we use in civil aviation parlance, MCT, minimum connect time between domestic and international travel. We've got a consultant who's right now engaged with us. And it is my dream to make sure that in the months or the years to come, we create that hub within India, and Delhi being the first in the days to come.
The board of the Airports Authority of India had shortlisted 13 airports as part of the second round of privatization of airports. We also have an election round the corner. Is that something that you're still looking at? Talk for a moment about asset monetization of the airports in the next stage.
So I think it's very important as an economic platform, we discern between asset monetization, stroke privatization, and a lease structure. What we are looking at in the Civil Aviation Department is not an asset monetization, not a privatization. What we are looking at is a lease model, and a lease model in which airports are given out for a period of 50 years. In that process, the capex that has been endured within that particular airport on a written down value method with depreciation, that amount of capital is returned to Airports Authority of India. So Airports Authority of India gets a capital receipt, if you will, and along with that capital receipt, it also gets a per passenger fee, and therefore there's a revenue stream that also accrues to Airports Authority of India throughout the tenure of the lease, if you will, over the next 50 years, and therefore there are 2 income flows to the Airport Authority of India. Why is that necessary, Rahul? Because I believe that the civil aviation sector in India needs a huge injection of capex that cannot be done by the private sector alone, that cannot be done by the government alone. It has to be a twinning in terms of an effort. And we have a very aggressive capex plan of close to about 98,000 crores between the private sector and